readers. I'm back again with another bookish vlog. Today's vlog is centered around Valentine's Day, book recommendations that are not necessarily a romance, but other kinds of love. There are many kinds of love, and we're going to talk today about some books that are centered around love of sisterhood, love of books, love of self. So let's get into it. So my first book recommendation for Valentine's Day is if you want a self-indulgent kind of book that's low stress, low effort, pick up Book Love by Debbie Tongue. This would also make a great Valentine's gift or Galentine's for those girlfriends out there who love books. It's a graphic novel and it's a cozy comfort read for book lovers. The themes in the book are introverts, book lovers, anything bookish. It's a relatable comic book that will resonate with anyone who loves books. It's a relatable comic on things that book lovers experience. It will resonate with anyone who loves books. It made me laugh out loud because some of the things that are depicted in the graphic novel I have actually done, and I'm sure many of you have. So check out Debbie Tongue's Book Love. My next recommendation is a book about self-love. It's called Nuta, and it is written by Nikki Brantmark. We've all read about Hygge and how the Scandinavians have it all together on their self-care and love of self. This book explains the Swedish concept of Nuta, which means to savor and enjoy the present moment. Finding happiness in the simple parts of your day through nature, food, and your daily rituals. This book provides how-to tips on incorporating this philosophy into your everyday life. As far as concerning how to do it at work, how to do it in relationships, how to do it at home, and just every aspect of your life. It gives you tips on how to incorporate that Nuta concept. The themes in this book, I would say, are mindfulness and intention. I highly recommend this. I really love this book. My next book recommendation is The World's Fair Quilt by Jennifer Schiavone, 23rd in this series, I believe. You can totally read them out of order. It's just that the characters grow and develop as they goes on. So if you like the World's Fair one, maybe try starting at the beginning with the first one. This book follows the main character, Sylvia Bergstrom, and it tells basically a lot of her family history and how she lives at Elm Creek Manor and how she runs with a bunch of her girlfriends a quilting retreat. And in this book, in the series, Elm Creek Quilts is experiencing financial trouble. So Sylvia agrees to lend the quilt that her and her sister had made in 1933 for the Chicago World's Fair. She agrees to lend that quilt to a historical exhibit. And of course, with lending that quilt to the exhibit in her hometown comes a lot of memories, historical fiction, and women's roles in quilting and in the world at that time. This book really exhibits themes of sisterhood and the power of women throughout history. I love how they talk about the quilts, how they were constructed, the historical references, what they were used for, and the role that women played in making these, and then the whole sisterhood that develops from these quilting experiences. I highly recommend the Elm Creek Quilters series if you love quilting and want to know more about how women played a role in history with quilts. My next pick for a Valentine's read without a lot of romance is Library Girl by Peggy Horvath. The setting is a small town in Indiana, and mainly the most of the setting is inside the library because this baby is left in the stacks, and there are 4 children's librarian women that discover the baby there and take her in. They thought someone was going to claim her, but they never did, so they end up raising her in the library. They made it so that they could keep it a secret. Inside their office at the library, they made her a bedroom with a dresser and a bed, and one woman would stay every 4th night. So because there was 4 women librarians, so one would stay one night, cook her dinner, and she lived like this, homeschooled, never going out of the library until she was probably around 11, and then she wanted to start investigating the rest of the world. They start giving her an allowance. So Once she's finally allowed to go out into the town and the shops and explore on her own, she ends up making a friend with a boy named G.E., which lead to further antics and the rest of the story. It's a story about how life doesn't quite always work out the way it does in books, and finding the positive in that fact. It's a story of secrets and forgiveness, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I hope you do too. The next recommendation I have is, I would kind of, I guess, classify it under love of family and community. It is The Snow Child by Eowyn Ivey. I had the pleasure of meeting her at the book festival last fall in Harbor Springs, Michigan. I picked up this copy and had her sign it. I just finished it a few days ago and I absolutely loved it. The tropes in this book are people who have struggled with fertility, found family, and she also has a great way of blurring lines between reality and fantasy to where you're questioning whether it was real or not. It's set in the 1920s in Alaska with our main characters, Mabel and Jack, who I think got together a little bit later in life. They were late bloomers. They wanted to have a family, but couldn't, so they ended up moving away from their family for a fresh start to get away from everything to Alaska and try homesteading. I liked the fact that it described the historical fiction of that time in Alaska when a lot of people were gold digging and these people were trying to start farming, which I don't know that Alaska is the greatest farmland, but they were trying to make a go of it. It shows the harsh reality of the people that did do that. I liked the scenery descriptions and really the reality of how hard it was to keep yourself fed for the winter and not starve to death. Another set of main characters in this book is the Bensons, who are Mabel and Jack's sort of neighbors. They live not too far away. They have a bunch of boys, one of whom is named Garrett, and becomes really fond of Mabel and Jack and ends up kind of living there and helping Jack farm because they have no children to help them homestead. And they get really close with Garrett, and to the point where Mabel and Jack leave their farm to Garrett because they have no one to leave it to in their will. So one night during a rough spot in Mabel and Jack's marriage, when they're finding it hard to communicate, they have a snowstorm and Mabel and Jack are outside and they start goofing around making a snowman. So once they've made the snow girl, they leave it for the night, go back into the cabin, and then a few days later, Faina shows up with the mittens and the scarf that they had put on the snow girl. And they end up creating a relationship there where she's their snow child, where she only comes in the winter. She can't stand super hot temperatures, and they make warm clothes for her. And she lives in the mountains. She does not live with them, but she does join them for dinner and different things. But again, she can't stand it. If it's too hot in their cabin, they have to open the door. And the story follows the relationship between Mabel and Jack and Faina. And no one else has ever seen her, so the Bensons think that they are hallucinating due to the rough life in Alaska. But finally, Garrett does end up meeting her and falling in love with her. And the story goes from there. I highly recommend this book. I couldn't put it down. I read it in just a few nights after work. This story is about found family and believing in something even when others don't see your vision, and being able to accept the difference of what life gives you and what you had planned for life. I so enjoyed this book. The last book that I'm going to recommend is The Path to Kindness, Poems of Connection and Joy by James Cruz. It is a collection of different poets' poetry. This is a great book to pick up and put down as you please. It might be good for a reluctant reader or someone who doesn't read all the time. It's a low pressure, low stress read, and it's not like your old fashioned poetry where it's hard to understand, it's lengthy, they use, long words. This is more of a modern poetry about everyday things. They pick simple parts of life and get right to the point. It's beautifully crafted. I love the cover. And it has the deckled edges on the sides of the pages. And also in the back it has the bios, short bios of all the poets that are listed in here. And it also has some book club questions regarding some of the poems, or you could use them as journaling prompts. I so love this book. I wanted to read one of the poems to you because This James Cruise has a whole series of these books, and I just absolutely love them. But the poem I chose today, it's by Marjorie Sazer, and it's called I Save My Love. I save my love for what is close, for the dog's eyes, the depths of brown when I take a wet cloth to them to remove the gunk. I save my love for the smell of coffee at the mill, the roasted near burn of it, especially the remnant that stays later in the fibers of my coat. I save my love for what stays, the white puff of my breath makes when I stand at night on my doorstep. That mist that doesn't last, gone like your car turning the corner. You at the wheel, waving. Your hand a quick tremble and a brief illumination. Palms and fingers. Your face toward me. You had turned on the overhead light so I would see you for an instant, see you waving and see you gone.